Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you. Sounds good. Okay. I don't hear any feedback, so that's good.
Oh, look at us. All right.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Okay.
So you know what I'm going to try? Now, see, Kim, if you can share your screen with the flyer.
Okay.
Now, before you do that, do you see a link for the YouTube video?
I do not.
A URL at the bottom. Let me see. This is why we need Vaughn.
We're too old. We are too old. It is official.
Need some help, somebody.
I have this pulled up the Twitter thing, the GOODSTOCK Twitter post. Will that help if I send that in? It has the poster in it and the YouTube link.
So I have a link.
That's what we need. Okay.
I have a link. Let me put it in the chat box.
Okay.
But maybe y'all should click it to see if that's essentially where we want people to go.
Okay, let's see it. And won't you know what it is? Won't you know what it is?
So I have a link.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is copy that little link now. So Kim, now can you do me a favor and share screen of your flyer that you made?
Okay, let's see. One moment.
Yes. And in the end, we'll do is go back to this video and we'll edit all this out. Yes, we will.
Okay, that's just to say that YouTube link is the right one. If you click on it, it goes to us trying to figure this out.
Right.
In live time.
So let's just share that little flyer. Let's see. Can't hear you because you're muted.
Can't find the flyer.
No worries.
My computer is slowing down.
I got it. Here it is. I'm sending it to you right now.
Perfect.
I think this is it. Is that clear enough? Just sent it to you on Zoom.
All right, if it's downloading, how about this? Never mind. No, we need to come from Kim's. So I'm assuming that's going to take a while to download, huh?
No, and it should just be in my downloads already, actually.
Yeah, it's
just a matter of, it's just buffering because I live in rural America.
Here's the thing, Kim, you know what you can do? So you get the bottom of your screen. Do you have a Mac?
Yeah, but I'm not connected to my Mac. Okay, I got it.
Okay, good. You too. Perfect. Okay, so now what we can do is take that little screen share or the link and put it on all of our web pages.
The watch the YouTube live one.
So, yeah, the one that Kim put in the chat. And now I'm also going to stop my video. Keep on doing this wrong. Let's do it. Kev, you're muted.
I'm always muted. I'm gonna get this down packed by 2025. 2025.
Y'all.
All right, Jocelyn, come through with the earrings tonight.
Come through with the earrings. Come through on the election 2020, folks.
Election 2020, people.
It is 6:30. I don't know about y'all, but I've been up since 5:30 a.m. Ready.
Ready. Texting too. Were you tweeting or texting?
I was tweeting because
disrupting the world. Disrupting the world.
I don't wake people up. Okay, I don't believe in texting someone before 8 a.m. Actually, I lied. I didn't text people today. I text my mom and them. I woke everybody up too.
Hey, Kels.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. So are we looking forward?
What? Can we first do a quick check-in with each other on how are we feeling with 29 minutes left until the first closing of polls?
How are we feeling?
What do you feel like this is going to swing?
See, everybody's all quiet.
I have a piece.
You got a piece?
I talked to Kim about this a second ago. I was coming up 26 under the Somerville Bridge, and there were 3 men.
Okay.
2 of which had an American flag and 1 of which had a Trump flag, and they were like fist pumping, like waving their flags, and like I cried like driving underneath the bridge because that's where we are.
Okay.
Like that's what's happening, and in my life, in my day and age, I've never seen anything like this. I feel like a civil war is coming, and it's overwhelming. So that's where I'm at.
Wow. Okay, that gave me chill bumps. Like
that did for me.
Yes.
I wish on my elbow, but I didn't put on lotion. So
well, you know, I never put on lotion, but right. And I think I probably feel that way because we didn't even introduce ourselves first and foremost for those who are new to our channel. So I am Kim Butler Willis, Dr. Ebony Hilton, Kelly McKenzie, and then we have our 2 awesome up and coming GOODSTOCK partners, right? Yes. We have Jocelyn and we have Sashini. And so we're coming together on election night to talk about our fate. That's what it feels like. We're talking about the fate of the country and what will happen in 2020 compared to what happened in 2016.
And I think that's a problem, is that 2016 was such a mind fuck. Okay, we're gonna have to label this YouTube video not for kids because it was a complete mind fuck. But honestly, going into the night of 2016, I knew Trump was gonna win. I knew he was gonna win simply because of the way that people reacted whenever they heard Black Lives Matter. When I saw people getting visibly like a visceral upset about people saying Black Lives Matter, I was like, oh, we are really, really racist. Like, I knew America was racist, but I was like, oh, we real. Like, We blue blood racist.
I did not know America was racist.
I didn't know. But here's the thing. You know what I feel like, honestly, this, Jocelyn, and maybe I'm crazy this year, but I feel like the opposite of 2016 is going to happen. Because what you see at the polls today, so I was that crazy person. I already voted September 25th because I like to do things early. I like to be proactive. And so today I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Starbucks. But on my way to Starbucks, I'm just going to go and sit in a in a poll place to see what the lines look like and like see who's showing up for this thing. And there was a slow, steady stream. But I mean like a slow, steady stream, like 1 or 2 people. And I was super proud because there was a great mix of diversity. But Charlottesville tends to be really liberal leaning. But I didn't see the lines wrapped around the building. And the same is being shown, and I'm actually going to share my screen so people can be watching MSNBC while we're doing this. I forgot about that. But the same is being shown kind of across the nation in that there hasn't been these extremely long lines of people because everyone has already voted. And if you're looking at who has already voted, there's been heavy leaning towards the Democrat. And so I think what happened in 2016 was that Democrats were like, I can't, for whatever reason, they didn't like Hillary. And a lot of us stayed home. And I think the opposite is true this year, y'all. I honestly feel like a lot of Republicans are like, I can't vote for him. I can't vote against him because I can't vote for a Democrat and I'm just going to sit at home. And I think we're going to see in about 24 minutes, Trump going to have to pack them bags and I'll help him for free.
And I'm not so confident. I am struggling with PTSD from 2016 because I was sure that our country was going to vote for Hillary. Sure, I've heard from a lot of white women that she's like comparable to our Ben Carson. Okay, I know there's an issue there, but I was like, surely we're not going to vote for the Apprentice guy. Like, surely we are more couth than that. But this is...
You mean voted for Ronald Reagan, didn't the country? What's the difference in the Apprentice guy and a Hollywood actor? B-list.
Nothing. And we're the country of Jersey Shore. Let's not, okay? Let's not put makeup on a pig. America is deeply rooted into reality TV. I really not have a Married to House, Married to Medicine, Married to
Clearly.
Myself.
And now we have The White House season 1.
And hopefully it gets cut at season 1. But honestly, if you look at it, everything about 2016 told you that he was going to win. By the last month, now I was pissed off about it. I called everybody every name under the sun. Oh, you best believe. But America was showing us that it was screaming out, you had a black man in here.
Right.
Didn't like it. We don't know what y'all are always complaining about. You always saying you need. Now these last 4 years though, I think we have come to see that yes, this is real. The pandemic has definitely helped to uncover a lot of BS. And I'm hopeful that we are going to see that we're going to flip some things around. And I need who's with me? Shashini, I know you with me.
I definitely am. I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, so when it was the last election, that was November 2016, I was sitting in a lawn room here at UVA in Charlottesville, and UVA is a bubble. We love the bubble. There's things that go right and wrong in the bubble, and everyone was sure, like Kim saying, because we were skewed with our Facebook groups and our Snapchat groups and the people, on Twitter that we follow. And we were sitting on the lawn and just could not believe what was unfolding. And now I'm in the same exact place 4 years later, still at UVA, and so much stuff has happened in my life, so much stuff has happened in the country. And it's kind of traumatic because it could, if we relive what happened 4 years ago, I have no idea what I'll do. But every my rational mind is telling me what we've been saying. You know, like people have had enough. People are rational. People are inherently good. They're gonna do.
Are they rational? Are they rational?
I mean, the silent majority and just that undercurrent and underpinning of people not showing their true face is what really hoodwinked pretty much the nation in 2016. Mm-hmm. Not everybody was so confident Trump was going to win. I mean, certainly all of the polls were skewed so dramatically in favor of Hillary. When you looked at the polling numbers in terms of white women, they skewed way off in terms of how things finally shook out in the wash.
The polls are right. The poll said Hillary won the majority votes. The polls were right. What was wrong was the inclusion of what the electoral college looked like. That was what was wrong. And again,
no, those polls were showing something very different. CNN was predicting something very different. A lot of those polls were showing Hillary far in the lead in 2016.
And other people who were going to go to vote. And this is what I'm saying. Other people who were going to vote, yes, if you're asking me and I'm going to show up, but what they didn't do is they didn't ask the people who weren't going to go and vote. So I think the polls were right. Still, as far as what they were showing, the problem is that a majority of people, a good allotment of people, just simply did not show up. Right. And I think the difference this time, if you look at how many new voters we have coming in, and not only the given states that we automatically say, oh, there's definitely going to be Democrat or definitely going to be Republican, but in the toss-up states, new voters, right? People who didn't vote in 2016. My mom took a 80-year-old person who had never voted before. She took an 18-year-old person who's this is first time ever voting. I saw on TV they were showing someone in North Carolina. I want to say it was Charlotte. A 56-year-old woman who said she had never voted before that was voting this time, and they asked her why, and she was like, well, I'm sitting here in a pandemic, I don't have anything else to do.
That's the response. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's who we are depending on to change the fate of this entire country. And I'm sorry, I'm not sold. I'm a bag lady. 2016, I gathered all the bags, all the rocks on my back, and I am certainly walking into 2020 like a bag lady. I can't shake them. I can't shake it.
I'm a Pisces. I will create an ideal world in my mind. Okay.
You are everything you pretend to be, friend.
I'm really excited about it. And honestly, today, call me crazy, but I honestly feel like I feel so confident as to say we will know something by the end of the night. Again, because of the fact that if you look at how many people have turned out in person to
93 million.
I'm talking about that was before today, right? I'm talking about today. There has been you see MSNBC right now?
Yeah.
Trickles of people. Why? Because we have flipped 2016 on in. The people who didn't show up for Hillary is the other end of the spectrum now of where these people are saying, I cannot vote for this man.
So tell me about this while Lola is losing her mind. Tell me about this. How are you guys feeling about women's rights? So we've lost RBG, right? And now we got new old girl in her seat.
Amy, we call her Amy.
Amy. What are we expecting? Like how much are we expecting to have to fight? And do we believe that Amy Coney Barrett is going to really support women, given that she is a woman? What are you guys thinking?
Who do you want me to go first?
I'm going to go with Kelly first. Kelly is a strong feminist. And I want to know what she's thinking about it.
Right.
I'm gonna let the others go. I'm in a listening mode this evening. I want to hear from the young folk. I'm here to hear from the millennials. Okay. In all honesty, let me hear from the millennials. Go ahead,
Shani.
I think that just because she's a woman, it does not mean that she's going to prioritize things that women would prioritize. And it is hard to say that because I want to believe that that's not the case. I do think that in a way, the country has reached its capacity. We've been through COVID. We had to go through so many people passing away that we love, including RBG, including Kobe. And to be honest, I just don't think that we can deal with one more thing that is not going to go the way that we need it to go for people who are trying to create a better world for everyone. People who don't have healthcare, people who don't have insurance, people who don't have jobs, people who don't have rights. I do think it's going to, I think this election in a way is going to give her a platform, as we've seen, like a lot of people have been talking about things, and we can unpack that more. But I'm nervous and I miss RBG. I wish she was here to guide us.
Listen, RBG said she don't. Actually, RBG probably one up there switching things up. Her and John Lewis.
Well, can I be a little critical right here? So when RBG was asked if she would retire under Obama, she declined. So
Francis can't let that go. He cannot let that go.
I know. And I feel like that's a conversation. It's such a nice metaphor for life. You got to know when to step back. You got to know.
But is it that generation? For instance, my grandma, I've told y'all this many times. She's 80 years old, celebrated her 80th year last November. I literally had to call her job during this pandemic and say, I'm going to write my grandma a doctor's note. She can't come to work again. And it was pulling tooth and nail. And I promise y'all, so they said, okay, you can write her one for 2 weeks. They extended it out for, I think, like a good month. And then they finally was like, Miss Louise, can you hire? I don't know if it's that generation of where they feel like if I stop, and especially y'all got to remember too, this is a woman who has battled how many cancers? Where her life was being threatened to be taken away. And sometimes to distract yourself from that. Now, was it selfish? Okay. Was it
him? Not to derail the conversation, but I got to get back to what Jocelyn opened us up with, because I feel like fundamentally that's the kind of crux or the humanity of where we find ourselves. The reality is that within the last 6 weeks, I've had 3 different sets of individuals within my friend group ask me whether or not I wanted to go with them to get firearms training. And they are doing firearms training. These are all folks who would be considered liberal, all folks who would be considered kind of pacifist. They're not into gun ownership. And don't get me wrong, folks who might be listening from other parts of the country, folks in the South own guns, but they did not grow up with guns. And so the sheer fact that I've had 3 different Black women talk to me about whether or not I was arming myself, to me, just kind of gets to the heart of what Jocelyn was saying when she's like, I'm scared. People are fearful for their lives and fearful for the outcome. And that to me just shows like how far the democracy has degraded to the point where people fear for leadership change. Like, what's up with that? Like, that to me is, I'm like, is this America?
Listen, every time we talk about that, I literally get goosebumps, and I feel myself intentionally deflecting from that fear because I don't know that I have time to be afraid. I don't know that I don't know that we have the luxury of fear right now. Because if we decide to just kind of stay in our homes and stay away from the conversation, what happens?
Well, could I ask, when we talk about this fear, is it a kind of fight or flight fear, like I can't go to the grocery store? Or is it a fear like my healthcare plan is going to change, and the taxes in my neighborhood are going to change, and the police force and their presence is going to change? Like, how is it immediate, or is it?
I think for Black people in this country, for a lot of people, it's a fundamental base fear. I mean, I think that's why gun ownership is up 300% among Black and brown people. I think that's for a reason, because people are fundamentally afraid for their lives. Don't get me wrong, Sashini. I also think they're scared of what's going to happen to their healthcare and what's going to happen to their access to education and all of those other things. But right now, I just think fundamentally people are concerned about like their life, like their safety and their well-being.
Jocelyn, unpack with us what you felt when, because you said you cried. So were those tears, and I know you can get pretty crunk when you want to. So were those tears about genuinely being afraid, or was it frustration? Was it anger?
I think it was more frustration because I had a conversation with my cousin earlier in the morning who is in Brooklyn. And she said that over the weekend, there were 3 bridges in New York that were blocked off by Trump supporters in New York. So just generally, like what is this going to look like? You know, the businesses are boarding up their businesses. The White House is boarded up, for Christ's sake. So what do we expect? How do we protect ourselves when we're generally driving over the bridge, or when we're going back to our homes, when we're going to the grocery store, Shashini? Like what does that look like, and what do we expect? So I think it's just general, just borderline baseline expectations.
I'm really interested to see how these groups will be characterized on the news as well. I think if there were people of color, it would immediately go to a negative connotation. So I wonder how it's going to spin on the news about these radical groups, or the radical right, or however they will frame it, because this feels like terrorism. If you're talking about we're afraid to go to the grocery store, you're afraid to go out, and we have to go in for arms training, that feels like those are terrorists. No?
What if I tell you I feel like that's the minority of people?
I agree.
I'd agree.
Because,
but they're loud. So if
for sure, but I'm trying to at least feed hope into Jocelyn, because I do feel protective of the generation that came below us, and I can see where that would make you, it'll break you. You know what I mean? And what I want you to know is that you saw 3 people, 3 idiots on a bridge. And that's the thing. Out of the 5 million people of South Carolina, you saw 3. And what we have to start doing is just like, Stacey Abrams is on here right now, showing the power of how you can take a state as racist as Georgia is, and through talking through things, you can shift that thing. And we know she won that election.
Right. We know that.
We know the voter suppression. We know the votes that were cast that weren't even counted. We know all that mess. So that just tells you the power and influence. And again, from what I saw in 2016, America, yes, was racist, but I think a big part of the people who I include in those racist people were people who were, not to give them a pass, because I'm not.
Okay. I'm about to ask.
Okay, because I'm not. But people who were okay with other people being racist as long as they were still separated from them. And this last 4 years have been able to shine that light to say, there's implicit and explicit bias, and there's explicit bias of where you don't say it, but you watch it happen. So if you watch me burn and you don't at least spit on me, you're okay with me burning, right? And so I think that's this whole pandemic and the protest has caused people to have this mirror up to say, me too, right?
Yeah.
And
silence is violence.
Silence is violence.
Like silence is violence. If I'm burning and you don't at least spit in my direction, then you are okay with me being on fire.
And also, if we continue to talk about these racist systems, there has to be people to move the system. So systems are innate, And so if you are thereby pushing the culture, the policies, the processes of the racist system, by default, you are the racist.
And we know 65% of all elected positions, usually white men, right? And at this point, I mean, that a reason again why I feel so hopeful. Look at the midterm election of 2018. Look at what happened. Look, now this is why I don't want people to get shaken, because the election night of 2018, we didn't see the final results until the next day, because they were like, oh, this blue wave everyone's talking about, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Look at but they were counting all the early votes, right? But the person that all the tally, once that came in the next day, there was a huge shift in the House. We took the House.
We did.
And I have a feeling tonight, y'all, we're going to take the White House and we're going to take the Senate.
Okay. And that's what we need. So question, I'm going to ask you guys if you had to choose between one. So if it meant that we could have the White House or the Senate, which would you prefer and why?
Go. He got to go.
Which would you prefer?
The White House, he has to go for the symbol of what he represents.
Okay. What about you, Kels, Jocelyn, Sashini?
I mind the Senate. You know, it'd be nice to block every decision that comes out of that White House, much like they've attempted to do with what all of the good Democrats and all of the good kind of centrists have been trying to do for the past 4 years. So I wouldn't mind if all of his crazy policies were going to be shot down, then I guess, 4 more years of insanity, but maybe not that much forward movement. And isn't that so sad? Like, look how far
that's the compromise.
That's the compromise.
Because this is why I think he needs to move. It's because the influence in the Senate is one thing. The influence that Stokes-Spear and Jocelyn driving home is another thing. And he has emboldened these idiots who have barely 2 brain cells and 2 friends with 2 teeth to come together to wave flags on a bridge.
But they're out the bottle. Do we think they're going back in? And Jocelyn was about to say something. I didn't want to cut her off.
They won't have a microphone.
They're going back.
They won't go back, but they won't have a microphone. He amplifies their message from the White House steps. When he says, stand back and stand by, that is amplifying that message to say it is okay. And they are using that as a way, just like with ISIS, to radicalize people in the Middle East. They always talk about, oh, ISIS. That's the same thing with white terrorism is the cause of all domestic terrorism of upward 76%. I think it was the FBI just
domestic terrorism.
White terrorism. And if you have someone like Donald Trump who's in the White House speaking the same words as you, it allows you to pull in the phrase of these other people, because now you don't need to do it just on social media. He's a beacon for that.
Well, and this is why we need the greater majority to be louder. So for instance, when he said that about the Proud Boys, like stand back and stand by or whatever. So then you had a whole corral of gay men using the hashtag on Twitter. This is what Proud Boys look like. It's like,
I was here
right. Because then you take the power away. You take the oxygen out of that. But we need more of that. And not just on Twitter. We need it in the meeting. We need it in the boardroom. We need it at the hospital. We need it, you know what I mean? And so we need, no longer can you just rest on your laurels and believe that you're a good person. Now you have to actively be a good person to really drown out the foolishness.
But the thing is that being a better person, that, calling a spade, that calling out the systemic issues that are keeping millions and millions of people from having a good education or from having access to healthcare, that cannot continually be the rallying cry of the people who look like us. I mean, that's what's going to have to shift. We can't keep being the torchbearer for the messages that people already fundamentally know are fucked up. I'm sorry, we can't keep carrying that water. Stop asking me how to fix it. Do something.
I honestly feel that, and again, maybe I'm being naive, but I feel like these last, not even 4 years, because I'm not going to give people that at all.
Give them one.
I'm going to give not even one. I'm going to give them these last 10 months, honestly.
Maybe since George, I'm actually giving since George Floyd. And I don't even think it's been the full 10.
And listen, the only reason why it's been since George Floyd is if you listen to so y'all know I'm addicted to MSNBC and CNN. I like watching politics. And if you listen to some of the exit interviews of people who are voting early, and they ask them, who did you vote for last time and why now this time? And people that were voting for Trump last time and now this time, a lot of them said because of the way he handled the pandemic, because it takes sometimes your own doorstep being littered with shit before you get worried about your dog shit in somebody else's yard. Let's just say it that way, right? So once their health was compromised, and once their job security was compromised, and once their suburban teachers were having to be now put back in school with all these sick kids, and I might get this disease, that caused them to shift. And so what I am fearful of is that this time they will vote this way. I'm fearful of in 2024, we may see them shift back.
Right, because we're going to become comfortable again. I'm going to invite in Cordell. So I really want to hear from the young people. I think when we just stop and listen, we really glean a lot from them because they have a unique perspective that I'm still trying to hold on to, but I'm not young anymore. And neither are you, Ebony or Kelly. So we have to let that go. So I want to know what it sounds like for young people in America right now. Like, what are your top priorities when you went to vote today? Are you early voted? What were you voting for?
And just so we know, we're at 1 minute and 28 seconds before the first poll closed.
Mm-hmm. Let the countdown begin. Hey, Cordell.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So I just posed a question to you, Jocelyn, Sashini. When you guys walked into the voting booth today or earlier this month, what were you voting for? Not who, but what were you voting for?
Well, I think what I was voting for, I'm not gonna say thing. When I went in there to vote, believe that we need more equality. I think that our voice is still not being heard the way they should be being. Education for one, there's a big gap in education. Also, just to feel safe in your own country and not feel so segregated, quote unquote, because I feel like these times, these last 8 or 9 months has still been kind of shaky with the pandemic. And also, we have leaders, quote unquote leaders, that aren't leading in the right direction to bring us together. We're supposed to be the United States. So the biggest thing for me was like how to bring everything full circle to bring us back closer as a nation.
Perfect sense. Now, Cordell, do you have kids? Because you mentioned education. Are you just firmly rooted in education, or you have kids, or you're an educator?
Yes, I have kids. Also, too, this coming spring, I'll be pursuing a PhD to further myself in college.
Okay.
South Carolina too early to call. Sorry, y'all.
Poll results are coming in, and they all the early states look like they're too early to call. That ain't good. That is not good.
It's literally we haven't had any results in.
It should be a definitive answer. 1 billion people have already voted. This should be so clear.
That's not the way they report them.
Mm-mm.
See, Kelly.
And I don't think South Carolina being too early to call is a bad thing. I mean, when historically we know which direction we lean, I think that's actually a good thing. That's a good thing.
Come on, Sandy Harrison.
Yeah. So Sheenie, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts in terms of the question that Kim just asked, or what's your response? What were you voting for more so than who?
Yeah, what not who. And forgive me, everyone, I'm being quiet just because I have this knot in my stomach and I'm watching MSNBC and I'm just like, I'm focusing on what you guys are saying. I want to say two things. In terms of what I voted for, and maybe Cordell touched on this, I'm really thinking of quality of life. And that's many things. It's healthcare, it's human rights, it's looking at how we treat people who are legal or not legal. It's also our image as the United States on a global platform. And I've been very fortunate in my life to study and work in many different corners of the world. It takes a lot to defend an entire nation to people who have access to the internet, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And it would be nice to not have to do that for a while. Every nation has dirty laundry. That's something I love about traveling. But it would be nice if some of our dirty laundry was not exposed all the time.
Yes. We have a whole
tweeted out every 2 seconds.
Whole dirty laundromat.
Yeah, tweeted every 2 seconds.
Exactly. It's very difficult to be an ambassador of universities and the communities that you live in and you study in here when your president's tweeting things out that have spelling errors in them or can't spell. I can't take that leader seriously. So quality of life for me is going to be so important, and that also touches on what Cordell said about safety. I have a sister who I adore. She lives in Atlanta. She's at Emory, And she loves living in Atlanta. It's a city she adores. She loves the, Piedmont Park and having picnics. She loves the restaurant life. She loves all the culture. You can't do that if you are a non-white person all the time. Atlanta's one example. There are so many other metropoles where it's just not safe for someone who's not white, or God forbid, someone who's not a man. And I just don't think that's acceptable anymore. We're living in the 21st century. So many people have died and sacrificed, and it's enough. It's enough. So that was on my mind when I was voting. Another thing I wanted to say is I wanted to kind of, and maybe we can touch on this after Jocelyn answers, but I wanted to talk about Dr. Cameron Webb, who's running for a seat here in Virginia. And we're talking about how we need smart, competent, level-headed people to make a huge personal sacrifice and go into office. I cannot even imagine what that looks like. And Dr. Cameron Webb and his wife, Dr. Leanne Webb, like, I admire them from afar, and their family and how they're raising their family.
2 kids.
Right, 2 kids. And I'm sure they're there at home for dinner every night. Like, that's how committed they are.
Yeah.
We need people like that, but it's such a sacrifice because, we talk about the media effect, and we talk about just everything in politics. It doesn't make sense to me why politics should be the way it is. So I just want to take a second and recognize that it's not just about, good people like us on GOODSTOCK talking. It's about people like the Webbs who've been at it for years, So that was on my mind. But I'd love to hear what Jocelyn thinks also.
Yeah. What you say, Joss?
So I think for me, this year was totally different. I didn't vote in 2016 because I wasn't in South Carolina. I was in Virginia at the time. So I didn't vote in the last election. But this time it was one, just to exercise my right, just with everybody else fighting, everybody standing up. Like, I knew that it was something that I needed to do. And this year I paid more attention to, like, my local votes, like my state votes. Like, I paid attention to the senator and who was going to be the coroner and who was going to be in charge of the school district and things like that. I mean, like Shashini said, I have a niece who's in middle school, and, hopefully my future stepdaughter will be coming here. And so there's a lot of other things I need to pay attention to, but it was holistic. Like, just how can I exercise my vote and pay attention to everything that's going to be impacted for everybody that's around me and not just me.
I'm so happy to hear you say that when you talk about local elections, because I think it's sometimes overshadowed, especially when we're going through a presidential election. But those are the positions that really impact our daily lives, right?
Those are the things that impact your quality of life.
Quality of life.
Who are your kids' teachers? What kind of supplies are at the school? What kind of parks and recreation is available in your neighborhood? All of that is local, and all of that is the day to day. I wish people paid more attention to the local elections. And I feel like as a result of the energy around this election, people are starting to notice, like, oh, local level issues really do matter. So that excites me because I think it's starting to register more so.
And not just get excited, but actually run for office. Just run and just see what happens.
What were you going to say, Cordell?
That's very important. I think that's where it starts. People always think big, thinking about Trump. If you look back at the last 4 years of your life, how important was it to you or in your immediate day-to-day routine? Did he impact your living situation when you could have went and voted for your local officials? You want stuff to change, like, oh, I'm gonna be for more growth in this area, or oh, how many kids can go to schools in this district? It's in our, we see it have a voice, especially as African American men, to have a voice to say, hey, what's gonna go on here? Get together, have some brunch, have some lunch, educate our young men to say, hey, things don't have to be this way. You don't like this city official. Get educated on it. It's not politics. We politic with everything else. We see young people politicking about Birkin bags. You know what I mean? They can get together and they can talk about what's going to happen with children and it's important.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at it too, I think again this pandemic highlights for people truly the structure of government, because I do think that was a miss for a lot of people, that we don't do a great job in speaking about what are the three branches of government and what does the local government look like. But it shows you the power and influence, because when this pandemic happened, because we didn't have a competent leader in the White House, we had no national strategy, which meant that everything had to be now on the shoulders of your what? State and local officials. And so people, I think for the first time were like, wait, who is my governor? Like, wait, who is the person? Then if the president doesn't say, then who does it fall to? Oh yeah, that governor seat is very important. And when we're talking about even social justice, and we're talking about these judges who let Breonna, well, not Breonna Taylor, that was for the district attorney, of which is also a what? An appointed position. So when we're talking about these judges, some of them are appointed, some are elected. But even if they're appointed by somebody who is what? Elected. So when we're talking about Black men and the risk of dying at police brutality at 1 in 1,000 Black men can expect to be killed by a police officer. Lord forbid, I don't want to say, well, then we need a judge in place. We need to stop that from happening in the first place. But if that injustice happens, there needs to be accountability. And the way that you make sure you have accountability is to have representation in the elected positions of judges and district attorneys that are going to say, we're going to do what we're supposed to do, which is look at the law and protect the rights of people, right? And treat everyone as a person. But I'm hoping this pandemic and these protests have shown us just how much power we're placing in the hands of people that's right in our neighborhood, not in the White House.
So true, friend.
And I also want to add, it's not just anyone. Like, I don't want to elect someone who's my best friend. I want to elect someone who's been through school, who has degrees, someone who has spoken at international conferences, who can act with poise and diplomacy. You know, we're talking about Dr. Cameron Webb. He's really paid the price. Like, he's paid the fare. Now's his time to shine, and for his family. So like, thinking about, I want someone to represent me, but I also need the right person, not just someone I like, or someone who makes me believe, who sends me a stimulus check that never arrives, and wants me to be their friend. Yes. It's so important, because someone will be your friend today. They are not going to
and talk about your shithole country tomorrow. Right?
You mean that's the thing, the perception issue. You know, Cordell, I just in terms of a moment of levity, because this is all really heavy, my heart kind of smiled on the inside when you talked about Black men meeting for brunch. And I'm like, can you imagine the Proud Men rolling up on a group of Black men at brunch? They'd be so confused. They'd be like, what is this right now? You know, so just like even the perception of who we are as a people, like that, it's gotta shift, because it's so skewed. It's so skewed.
That's why I don't know if you guys, to shift even more, saw the John Legend song. His new song. Somebody tell me the title. Oh my God, the new song that he just put out.
I was gonna say Glory, but I think I'm probably a decade behind.
It was Break Us. It'll Never Break Us. Y'all know what I'm talking
about. Never break.
So if you haven't watched the video for that, oh my God, because definitely watch it, because there was Tal said it was dedicated to his wife, of which she deserves everything right now.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song, and I do think it can talk to the relationship of spouses. But in the video it shows images and movies and pictures of just Black people from decades and decades ago to current day, of us just being regular people. We're at cookouts dancing. We are marching in the street for protest. We're doing normal everyday stuff. And as I was sitting there watching it with some of my nurses at work, I literally said out loud, I was like, is this the way y'all see Black people? As just being people who are going to brunch? Because we do that, Black people. We brunch with each other. Do you ever see these images of dads playing with their daughter in a very normal way? But it's images that aren't portrayed of Black people doing that. It's usually, if you hear a dad playing with their daughter, you see a white man on TV. It's that video, literally, I started crying at the end of it. And I think people were like, wait, why is she crying? feels like, because John Legend does such a beautiful job of when he sings these songs to put images to it that truly does speak to this is how we want you to see us as being humans, you know. So yeah. Well, Kim fussing at the kids.
I'm always fussing at the kids, right? Because
life.
But I wanted to add, you probably should have told them that you're always crying, so that makes sense. And then 2, do hashtags like Black Girl Magic. Does that elevate us in a way sometimes where we just want to be seen as just we're just regular people doing regular things? I love Black Girl Magic.
I think when we say Black Girl Magic, we know what it means. I think sometimes when white people see Black Girl Magic, they see this Black Girl Magic. They don't see it as Black Girl Magic of Kamala Harris or Black Girl Magic of Michelle Obama, where she's walking through. They don't see it as a
simple thing.
They see it as sass. They see it as Beyonce in the Super Bowl. They see it as this inner.
But the magic is really just the resilience.
The magic is just me, baby. You know what I mean? The magic is us being Jocelyn, of seeing these men fly these flags and still showing up in America. Not to use America, but truly showing up, like Baldwin says. I love America more than any other country in this world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. Like, I see the greatness of what America can be. And I see where we are. And as daunting as it is to see that negativity is pointed towards people where you fit the demographic of the ones that's not wanted.
Let me piggyback on that, what you just saying.
Go ahead, Cordell.
They don't see the Black girl magic of, women out here working 2 to 3 jobs, or being nurses or doctors or educators, or working like beyond stuff like that. African.
Hey, Cordell, baby, I want to hear exactly what you have to say. And it seems like every other word is getting cut off.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little on us.
But I really want to hear
me.
Right. And that's my dog choking on a bone. Let me
right.
While she handles the dog choking on the bone and Cordell is kind of sorting out his technical issue, one of the things that I've been wondering about in terms of Sashini and Jocelyn and Cordell, we just saw Stacey Abrams, who released a fantastic book. I'm in the middle of it, Lead from the Outside. So we're hyper focused right now about leadership from the inside. But in what ways would you say you believe your community can influence what's happening on the inside from the outside? Because we've seen so much of that in action this year. And so, I'm just curious, what is your take on your ability to lead and impact from the outside? I'm going to kick it to you first, Sashini.
That's a great question, Kelly, and that's kind of been something I think about a lot. My personal motto has always been lead from within. So, in other words, I was raised in a family where my parents told me, if you want anything, you have to work hard, because no one's going to give you anything for free. And that might be an immigrant mentality. It might be a brown woman mentality. I don't know. I'm sure there are people who disagree with me.
Brown lady mentality, because I was told the same thing.
Absolutely.
You walk up to a door and there's someone there who looks like a guard, you're going to stop because they might question you. Whereas I've been with friends where they just walk through, and that applies to your life, right? So I love Stacey Abrams and the way she conducted herself in the race against Brian Kemp, and her elegance and her grace has just, I think, catapulted her career the way it should, because she is a smart lady. And in her book, when she's saying lead from the outside, and I haven't read it yet, but I really want to, I've been thinking about it, just the title is so evocative. And especially now in this moment of COVID and this extremely tense election, and our national security has also been an issue, and these are things we're dealing with. is it better for us to come from within, join a conversation, and try and understand people who have different views to us, and then try and affect change? Or are we forced to stand on the outside, on the margins, and kind of affect what's happening on the inside? I don't know. I think, unfortunately, many people are forced to do the latter. It's just not a choice. You're not lucky enough. And yes, it's hard work. I mean, I work hard, but there's also some luck involved, that the right person at the right time was there for your job interview, or, you know, read your med school application. There's so much luck involved, and unfortunately, not everyone has that. So in a way, we do have to finagle and force our ways into these conversations, because no one is inviting us. I mean, God forbid.
Amen to that.
God forbid someone say, "Oh, please, you have been oppressed and marginalized. Have a seat at our table."
But that's why we
tell us your story.
But that's why we say create your own table. And again, I think as women, the reason why Stacey Abrams was so elegantly able to shift and say lead from the outside, same as Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton, I would have given.
Don't talk about Hillary. Hillary apparently turns the people off, friend. Don't talk about Hillary. We kind of just need forward.
I get that. But what I am saying though is I would have gave America the whole big finger, because that's kind of petty person I am. Okay. But she didn't. She stood in her loss, as Stacey Abrams did, and continued to do the work with the supporters that she did have to say, don't get disparaged by what happened to me. I want you to stay involved. I want you to still go out there and vote. I want you to still organize, because we have to do what's right. And for that alone, because I had my qualms, but for that alone, I really do respect her in a different way, because there could be people who went bitter. And so, but I think that's what speaks to women, because we are used to not having the seat at the table, but still giving our input, because they always ask us questions for free, right?
Being a hostess. We're used to being the hostess.
Right. Okay. But now I think we're coming into this era where we're saying, hey, we're gonna start to shift this, because I do believe Stacey Abrams will be on the national stage sooner than later. She can have any seat she wants in Georgia at this point. But I honestly, I think she's gonna surpass that. I think she's gonna come on to the national, federal level of things. But with that, I think yeah.
No, I didn't mean to cut you, but I wanted to hear from Cordell or Jocelyn kind of what their take was on the question.
Hey, Cordell, audio connecting? Because I wanted him to finish what he was saying in the beginning.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Oh yeah, just to elaborate and just to finish up on that topic of Black Girl Magic.
Oh man, it went out again, Cordell.
Oh, let me hold it up. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I sure can.
Yeah, so when other people see it, they look at like the celebrity status quo of Black Girl Magic. But for me, it's just seeing like women like you that don't get heard every day, you know, that are being impacted in your communities, and also too like single moms out there working 2 or 3 jobs, or doing jobs that men do that, you know, they get underlooked, like educators. The biggest thing that I feel like is, to me, with that Black Girl Magic is like, look, you have to look at it not for such a big spectrum, but you have to look at it like, okay, hey, maybe I have this token Black girl friend, and just look at her for who she is, and not for what she like listens to, or not just being like a culture vulture like a lot of these people are. Like, hey, oh, she likes this music, let me see what this is about. It's like a hype thing. Let me see what her day-to-day is outside of just going out with her, you know. That's a big thing to me about Black Girl Magic. What was that question that you just asked?
Oh, just circling back on what your take is. You know, Stacey Abrams has written a book, a bestseller on leading from the outside. And so just curious to hear from you or Jocelyn, kind of in what way do you think you are most effective in doing just that? You know, how are you able to affect change from the outside, much like she's doing as a result of an election having been stolen from her, basically?
Well, I come from a sports background, so you know, you have to be a cheerful loser sometimes. You know, kind of like a couple of years ago when Serena showed her emotion when she lost that tennis match to the younger contestant, and she showed her emotion. She got a lot of heat from showing her emotion, right? Versus when you see the counterpart of men or men that aren't colored show emotion, it's a passion. Like Tom Brady's passion. He's passionate about what he's doing. She composed herself at the end. She gave her due diligence to the winner. You know, I feel like it's an expectation of us to do these things. Like we can't be emotional and show our ties to like leadership in that way. Like it's a passion for us too.
Preach, Cordell. Preach.
You know, if Tom Brady can get out here and throw his helmet, and you say, "Oh, he's just passionate about the play," he'll get it right next. Serena can go out there and slam a tennis racket, you know, and then correct herself professionally. Like, I hate the double standard. I really hate it. It gets under my skin a lot. You know, if I lose in something, I try to show my son, especially my older son, you know, it's okay. You're not always going to get it. You know, how can you better this situation to help, like with Bernie Sanders, when he's okay, I'm going to succeed to Joe Biden. He is the Democratic leader. So let's try to get this right and come to one accord. Same way with in a household. All right, maybe you don't get to eat what you want to eat that night. All right, okay. Let's come together and see what we can do to make sure everybody is satisfied. That's where we are. You know,
but we ain't doing that in my house. We're not coming together. We're gonna eat whatever I got here. Point blank. Period. This is not a democracy.
That's what we're trying to get back to, democracy, man. I think that's been ruined the last 4 years. So, you know.
Yeah.
How old are your sons, Cordell, if I may ask?
So what now?
How old are your sons, if I may ask?
One will be 13 here next week, and the other one will be 12 on December 8th.
So okay, so you have two sons.
Yes.
Ooh, because you know, here lately the topic of Black men and voting has been hot and heavy. We've had influence or, you know, speakers of Ice Cube, and who else spoke up? 50 Cent.
50 Cent.
Lil Wayne.
Yeah. Right.
Kanye.
Lil Pump.
Don't even, Jocelyn, did you just say Kanye? I thought we weren't even saying the K word anymore.
I'm sorry. I thought
all them that I just named can go collectively. But what do you feel like? For one, what do you feel when they speak for you? Do you feel like they are represent? Do you feel like some vein of what they're saying is true that you would hope that we would listen to? Yeah.
Okay, so two things. For one, I think now the way that I think now versus like 8 or 9 years ago is just completely different. Mm-hmm. Maybe 9 years ago, Lil Wayne, I'm listening to him a whole lot in college, and just like, hey, what? It'd be kind of like blindsided, like, hey, what's the deal? Like, this guy isn't representing what we feel like should be representing us. Now that I'm a little older, I'm over 30 now, it's kind of like, hey, is he voting based on his personal views of like what's going to impact him financially, or is he voting for a person that he feels like it's going to be personal for his family? He has sons. Lil Wayne we're talking about.
Right.
He has sons that are going to grow up and they're going to go through, I'm pretty sure they're going to go through some sort of like injustice. Believe it or not, I mean, they're with their mom. So they're going to be looked at a different, not unless they're in private school.
And even there.
Yeah. 50 Cent, you know, that guy trolls a lot. I never take this guy seriously. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like whatever. Kanye West with his bipolarness, it's just kind of like, I mean, as a whole with these guys, it's almost as bad as watching Trump lead his country. Like, you representing us because you have a big platform of African-American men that are going to look at you, and just the slightest word of you saying something may make them go research the wrong thing or look at somebody like, okay, well, maybe he's right about Trump. When personally, you didn't feel that way the day before. You're like, oh, Trump's a bigot. Now somebody like Lil Wayne's, you know, oh, Trump has my vote. Oh, okay, well, let me see why he's voting for him. Maybe I need to, you may sway his swear a person's vote, especially young voters, that tend to, whatever's going on is trending with a celebrity is what they usually go by. So as a father, it's more like, okay, let me sit down, let me educate you about some things, like what you're getting here, what you're voting for, why it's important. Because I got some people on my timeline on my Facebook and Instagram, well, your vote's not gonna count anyways. That's the dumbest stuff out of. I got my niece here, I can't use profanity, but that's the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. Right. You have to exercise your right. Yeah, people die to even get to this point. Yeah, people die. Literally.
Listen, Cordell, I actually heard someone say we should stop saying someone died because it's not like they went to the poll and had a heart attack. They were murdered. So people were murdered.
We'll say murdered. Yeah,
for this right.
Murdered.
And if it didn't matter, this is what I don't understand. If it did not matter, people, there wouldn't be millions of dollars poured into getting you not to vote. There wouldn't be laws that are passed that said, oh, wait, people are trying to early vote, take those polls out of that neighborhood.
Right.
Make sure that the 13,000. So LeBron James and other celebrities went and paid for 13,000 felons. Mm-hmm. Felons, and I don't even like it.
Is that in Florida, right?
In Florida, paid for their fines so they could vote. That's basically a modern day poll tax.
Poll tax.
Because they've already served their sentence in jail. If they've been released as a citizen. They should be able to vote. But that's the amount of effort that's being poured in to not only stop people from voting, but if you look at it, to stop Black people from voting, to stop brown people from voting. And there's reason. It's because there is power there. And I don't. Can I
ask a question? Because I know we're going to wrap up soon, so that we can really get into these results, right?
Right.
But defunding the police, that's something that has become the new buzzword to deflect people from voting for Joe Biden. I've seen the commercial. Even Jamie Harrison here in South Carolina is like, he wants to defund the police. Oh Lord, that's bad. We actually have a commercial that says that. That's bad. So tell me, what do you interpret as defund the police compared to how it's being spun out in the media, our conservative media? What do you guys think about defunding the police?
That's a conversation that needs to be had. I mean, you're talking about defunding people that have government access to endless amounts of resources of income to say, hey, well, we have a reason to go do this. If you have a limited amount of resources of monies to go do things, to lock people up that are the minority in the slightest bit of way, then when you have that, well, maybe you start shifting the way you police. Maybe you stay out of these low income places, and you start actually policing. Like you start back. I'm not gonna say back. You start protecting the servant, because right now it's not protecting the servant. Right now it's like a manhunt. To me, that's how I feel like in America as an African American male. Like it's like a manhunt. Is when you start defunding these places. Like, hey, we don't have the money to be doing all this stop and frisk, or just pulling you over just because you fit the description. You know what I'm saying? All these Karens calling these police on African American people. You don't have time to do that. Yeah.
My auntie named Karen.
I'm sorry.
Name Karen. My sister's name.
And I do think that Kamala Harris answered this question very well in the VP debate, which is, which I really liked her answer. I thought, just as a woman, I thought her performance was, not her performance, her composure was amazing, where she said, we're not saying people are going to lose their jobs, and we're not saying that we are going to end generations of service. We're saying that we are going to use the money in different ways.
Right.
And we're going to have body cams. We're going to have different kinds of weapons so that someone can't be shot at like an initial point. They can be detained in a safer, healthier way. So this word defunding, I think maybe because it has the word fund in it, gives the false sense that money is going to be taken out of the blue workforce and the police force. And that's not the case at all. We love policemen. They are very good policemen. Unfortunately, if you have one bad egg in 18, you have 18 bad eggs, because the whole freezer is going to smell. So I think it's so important to make that clear. And unfortunately, as human beings, I mean, we're learning this in med school right now. Repetition is how we learn. If someone stands in front of you and tells you the same thing 25 times, you're going to walk away and say that same thing.
Right.
So no matter how many people explain to you what defunding is, it's at the end of the day, it's just repetition. And I think the Democrats have realized that. I hope they have, and they've focused on that. But I think it's going to be a long time before we actually all get to the same page about what this means.
Unfortunately. Jocelyn, what's that meaning to you when you hear defunding, and how, maybe even how are you deflecting or answering, responding?
I mean, I just feel like when it comes to defunding, it's like Shashini said, it's not necessarily taking away the funds that are already there, but using them properly. So these institutes have all these monies that they don't use. They have enough to make settlements with people that they kill inadvertently or advertently, or whatever the case may be. They don't use their body cams, but they have the resources to they have the resources, but they're not properly using them. So if they're not using them, take them away. Like, that's kind of what it seems like to me. It's not necessarily taking the money away, but using the resources that they have to use them properly to benefit us.
I almost wish that people of color got the same level of grace that uniform officers get. So we can say, oh, but that's one bad cop. But do we say, oh, that's just one bad black guy?
Yeah.
You know, so we're unfortunately, that's one bad brown guy. But we give police officers this level of grace and gravitas that I'm not sure that they have. Well, in the last few years, we now see through video cams and through body cams that I'm not sure that it just should be that automatic. And I have police officers in my family, so I understand how hard the job is, and I completely appreciate and admire just the people who choose to go into that line. But we have to recognize that if we have bad apples, just like Sashini said, then it's all bad apples. You know what
I think the thing we have to recognize too, when people get up in arms of, like, when you say defund the police and they say, oh my God, but we defund education, have we not? We defund healthcare, have we not? When we're saying defund the police, it literally can mean we can stop militarizing the police. They shouldn't need tanks. Why does your police station in the middle of Charlottesville need a tank? Those types of things that cost that much money, we are allowing. But if you look at the money, there was a fantastic documentary, and I'm blanking on the name now, that on elections. I want to say it was on Netflix. Stacey Abrams is on there talking about, you know, what has kind of happened. What's the name of it? Who knows it? Guy. It was a recent one. But anyway, but in there, they're talking about how you can look at where the priorities of a nation are based on all in by where we're putting our money, and it shows that who we have in charge, because they tend to be men like fantasies, men like guns and violence and wars and playing cops and robbers, and women, we like teaching people, you know, and we all played with our baby dolls and had them sitting in class, right? And we were making Band-Aids for them. And the things that the people who are in power.
That sounds very personal. You were making Band-Aids for your baby dolls, Elle? I was playing with Legos. Let me just put it out there. I did not play with baby dolls. Tell me about the Band-Aids you were making, not to divert the conversation.
Should we make it about a socks?
Yeah, real God. I remember my little sister Juki, and again, we need to put her on payroll because I talk about it every episode. Juki was clumsy. Juki used to swing. We had a basement that had these little in our basement, it was an unfinished basement. And one time she was swinging on this water line, didn't know it was a water line, popped that, hot water everywhere. Juki used to fall a lot. And so I would make her Band-Aids out of tissue paper, because if you, this is how poor we were, if you put a dry piece of tissue paper down and then a wet piece of tissue paper over it, I can create you basically a Band-Aid, and or I can use something to make a tourniquet.
The medical MacGyver.
And this is why Dr. Hilton has become Dr. Hilton.
And so I would make her a Band-Aid, and then we would play, you know, hospital, and I would give her an ailment. My mama gave me this medical encyclopedia, And I diagnosed Juki with everything. Like she had a lot of stuff wrong.
That's what happens to baby sisters. They have a lot of things wrong.
I have a question for our millennial panelists. You know, we know that the browning of America is happening, of America. We know that the number of Black and brown children at this point in kindergarten outnumber the number of white children in kindergarten. And so from your perspective, what impact does the browning of America have on our political system? Either party, I'm just curious what you think the impact of that is going to look like.
All retinol serums.
And can I add a B to that? And how do you think it's going to change your life, professionally or personally?
So personally, I'm hoping that in the school system that they learn enough about politics and about history and things that they can go into these leadership positions, that they can have these conversations, that they can step up and have these roles. And I think it'll be a good thing. And I think overall the whole trajectory of the United States is going to change based on colorism and things like that. How it's going to change our lives? Representation, the representation that we don't have right now, like with Kamala Harris going to be one of the first VP African American Asian American candidate that we're going to have, Barack Obama, like in our lifetime, we're going to have more representation. And then with the future of that, people feeling more confident and comfortable being able to step up and take the lead and have those conversations and being able to step up to the plate and be like, this ain't right. I don't like this. Change it, fix it, do it. So that's what I think.
That's exciting.
You know what they say about that rising tide?
What did they say?
Tell Kelly what they say with rising tide. I saw you shaking your head. All boats rise.
Raises all ships.
I'm trying to tell you, when I think about the excitement of Black people, America, if we allow Black people to get to equality, I want you to think about what happens, because in our track towards equality, there literally would be no definition of citizenship if it wasn't for Black people saying, define me in the Constitution. There would be no voting rights if it weren't for Black people saying, I too am a citizen, I deserve the right to vote. So the 1920 suffrage, Black women, we were leading in that movement, in that march. We got left behind. But if it weren't for Black people, there wouldn't be standardization of medical practices, because we had to say, you got to stop killing us, and allow for even Medicaid to be and Medicare to be of a entity, was because Black people in the NMA, the AMA, which is a white medical profession at that time, and the NMA, which was the Black medical professional society at that time, were at odds, because the white medical profession said, we don't want universal care. We don't want this federal insurance. The Black medical profession said, we do want it, because if we have federal dollars tied to this insurance, you can't deny me coming into this hospital and get care and treatment. That was in 1964. If you look at Black people with the standardization of even what we deem as being gold standards of education for elementary school age with the Brown versus Board of Education, if it weren't for Black people just saying, look at me as a human, we wouldn't have all these rights that are in place today. So every marginalized community group, every majority group, women in particular, white women in particular, you're the greatest benefactor of Title IX by far. Affirmative action, you owe us for the climbing up the ranks, for Black people trying to say, give us this opportunity. And so in this moment, if you see more Black faces in positions of power in Congress, on upwards to the White House, you will see the entire nation will do better, because the entire vote will rise if this tide rises. And so let us help us, and we'll help you. That's all I got.
Right. Imagery is everything to me. Is what you see, is what you believe, pretty much. Making a point to that, people look up to like LeBron James in sports. Hey, if he can do it, I can do it. We need more of that in our society to say, hey, well, if I see Ebony or Shashimi, like I can do this. Like you need to see that immediately. Like you have little cousins looking up to you, like, man, I want to be just like you and be cool. They look at you and you got to be mindful of the eyes that are watching you when you don't think they're watching. So we need that. I see that, you have representation coming up with Black and brown kids in elementary school, middle school, high school, and kindergarten. What they see. They bring in imagery to see these kids all the time with firefighters. They have career days. So once you start seeing us like, hey, oh, wow. Kind of like how we see when we go to places that we don't normally see Black people. It was like, oh, man, there's some more of me in here. I feel comfortable. I feel like I got a voice in this room. You know what I'm saying? I could speak up a little bit more. We need to see more of that.
And Cordell, I love that you brought up like just every day. It's not about being on a large platform. It's just about being a good role model in your everyday life, because we have little people, your kids, your nieces, your nephews that are just looking up to you and just want to see that you're a hardworking person and that you're loyal and you're smart and you're honest and you're trustworthy. I mean, these are the basic principles of humanity that I think children want to see, and that will foster the next Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, right?
Absolutely. To your point, Cordell, the importance of imagery, one of the things that's kind of disappointed me in terms of this election and the coverage that's been received, this is the first time ever that the Latinx vote outnumbers the Black vote. But think about how little attention really is paid to that population, how little attention is really, when I think about political ads, how many I see targeting Black community versus Latinx community. And don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily plugged into all of the Latinx media outlets. But when I think about the work of GOODSTOCK, and y'all know this is one of my big pet peeves, I hate when we talk about Black and brown communities, but then really do nothing to bring together the Black and brown communities. It's like such a missed and obvious opportunity that I wish more of us were proactively working on, because that's when we can start to really see those political tides turning, because then we become the majority. But it's like, what's it going to take to get that intersection to happen? But think about it, more Latinx voters than Black voters, but how little play the media has given that. To me, it's shameful. It's shameful.
I would even add poor people to that mix too. So we know that in the beginning of time, like the way that rich white people are able to assert their power is by disaggregating, right? Separating us. But in the beginning, it was poor white people and Black people bound together doing the same work, trying to figure out how to do things better. And so I think if we get with our brown family and with our poor people, we can really take this thing over, because we can create more opportunities in which we often don't see it. But unfortunately, we built a system where I'm not sure that SES is considered.
Black people ain't shutting nobody out. Now I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate for a second. Because Black people didn't push white poor people away.
Sure didn't.
Okay.
Sure didn't.
What happened in the beginning, yes, Black people and poor white people banded together. But when the white elite said, okay, white man, I'm gonna let you
we need more ammunition.
We're gonna give you a job title as a slave driver.
Yep.
And we're gonna let you now you can have some land and the Black people can't. There was a shift. And then currently in this same day and time, the people that were on the bridge waving those flags at Jocelyn, I'm just going to assume this is bad on me and pray for me, but I'm assume they're not having a house on Daniels Island. Okay. And because of that assumption, all right, they're again alienating themselves and voting against what's their best interest, because right now their health care is on the line. Right now, they're not getting a stimulus check. They got $5 a day, I think, with the stimulus check breaks down to. Right now, they're being threatened to lose their job, their house. Their children are being put into a school system where there's no testing strategy that is there. And yet they are still out there proudly saying, I will hold up this system if it means I can have somebody in the White House that looks more like me and less like you.
So I think Dave Chappelle said it best. He said he was standing in the voting line and he heard some white people talking about Trump and how Trump is going to come in and change the country. And he was like, actually, Trump is more for me than for you, because I'm rich, bitch. So on that note, we want you guys to turn on to channels, whatever it is, whatever is your favorite station, but tune in. Let's look at these results. Let's make sure that the people came out to vote in the direction that we need. And even if we did not, we will still move forward. We will fail forward as a country and still figure out how we can lead from the outside in order to make sure that the United States stays exactly what we need in order to push this damn country forward, y'all. Any last parting words, good people?
I just want to say, Jocelyn, I'm praying for you and your mental peace, that you are important, you are loved, you are deserving of happiness. Oh, this is gonna make me cry. I do cry all the time. And I really am sad that you had to see that because you didn't deserve it. Yeah. And whatever it is, I hope that we can start to see the American flag and truly have pride in it. And I think in order for that to happen, we have to shut this whole shit down. Mm-hmm. And we have to start over of what it means to be American. And that taunting has no place in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The revolution will not be televised, y'all, but the results from the election will be. So hop onto the networks. Let's see. Tweet us. I know Dr. Hilton will be tweeting tonight. Send us a message on Facebook. Keep us posted.
Roland Martin, actually. I'm going to be on Roland Martin at 8:45.
Roland Martin at 8:45. So dig in, keep up with the conversation, and we will check you guys out on the next episode. But thank you guys. Good night.